Hi, thank you so much. I think it's really a pleasure to be in Mumbai always. I think we are at a stage in the Indian story uh, where things are shaping really. Uh, I can say I was hearing the minister in the morning, the chief minister of the state, and I can see from our experiences in Delhi, is the most amazing time to be in India. Like we have seen things shaping up, we have seen things happening, and given the way the Indian story of Viksit Bharat, where we are looking at by the time India celebrates its 100th anniversary, how will things shape up in the next 21 years? I think there's a lot of discussion happening in different states, and that's the beauty of India as well, because it's the states are driving the economic growth of the country. Like if you are in Karnataka, you're in Mumbai, you're in Chennai, you're in Delhi. That's how India has grown in the last 10, 15 years. Quite remarkable in that way, a federal structure as well. But our discussion in the next 30 years is a very sharp discussion with three amazing leaders who have done and built and supported and invested in different businesses and ventures. They share their understanding actually. How are they looking at Indian story, and what are the bets they are making on the Indian story? I think that's really the story for us. Also, in a sense, what way is Indian economy going, and what part of it is actually attracting the most energy, and what remains kind of not on the spotlight. I think that's the uh, a situation we are in the India at the moment. I will start Noi Cecilia with you, given your incredible work, being someone kind of an outsider, then came India, made India home, and in Mumbai, and saw an early opportunity in wine industry, and then gave it a energy and an attention where she was able to transform that industry for the country actually. I wonder what was your key learning from those early years which has helped you to actually build then your network and your support system and ecosystem.
My key learnings. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. The key learnings. So yeah, so some perspective. Of course, I'm from Sweden originally, but I came here 18 years ago, and I saw an opportunity in the wine industry. At that time, it was very nascent, and Sweden. Having a population also at that time about 9 million, I felt that I could not do enough. So I wanted to build an industry in an emerging market, and I chose India. Difficulties and opportunities on that one is that of course I came here and I didn't realize that it was such a vast country with so many different states and rules and regulations. But as you move into the market and you learn more about it and spend time here, which is really important, and also build a network, then anything is possible. And with that mindset, I have continued my journey. When you do have that mindset in a country like India or anywhere in the world that anything is possible, then it literally is. And the support that you get then from the people that you meet and the ecosystem that you build is where it's going to take you to the next stage.
Thank you so much. I think we'll take that to Tomoharu, to you. I was speaking to you before the session and looking at your journey at MIXI, which is a Japanese corporate investor essentially, not really a pure financial VC in that way. What does the strategic bet for you mean in the Indian market today? How are you looking at the market? What are the bets you're making? Your fund making.
All right. Thank you for asking me. I'm Tomoharu. I'm a managing director of MIXI Global Investment, and MIXI is a public company in Japan. We do operate in the consumer and the entertainment sector, and I'm in the investment team. And MIXI in 2023, we started the India dedicated fund. We were active investors in Japan and globally, but this is our big bet in India. We don't have this kind of VC on the MIXI, but this is our first attempt to make the, geo-specific corporate venture capital. And answering that question, we have a very strong belief and conviction that India will be the very big market. I mean, naturally, everyone around here, has that conviction, I'm sure. But occasionally, it's difficult to, make that bet in the corporate setup. A lot of, corporate team I interact with other companies. Everyone's interested in India, excited, but a lot of other companies are taking just a partial bet, or wait and see, or maybe visit India once a year and go back. But instead, we decided to make the India dedicated fund of 50 million USD size. I spend about half of my time in India. We have a on the ground team in Bangalore. We invested in about 12 startups so far, and it's going really well. Well, we invest in the consumer sector and the gaming sector. And consumer sector, consumer spending is growing and the middle class is rising. We all know that. And in the gaming and the entertainment sector, I'd say it's a bet we are making. I'll be very realistic. India is not far ahead. Maybe I'm coming from Japan. Or I also invest in the States and Europe. Gaming industry is all mature. Also, China is also really strong in the gaming dev. Compared to that, India is behind. I outright say that. But I also think that India is not that behind as behind as some investors or industry think. Actually, it's growing. Very good founders are building in the space for India or globally. So that there are very good investment opportunities in India in the gaming and entertainment sector. And actually it continues to be growing, so that we are making the early bet in the gaming and entertainment space in India that will mature in the coming decade.
Thank you. I will come back actually in the second round on what are the strengths of the Indian market which are not really getting the full recognition, or they're not getting the space. But I will go to the Ameer first, and Ameer, given your profile in your work and your understanding of the Indian market, and also unlike two other speakers, your fund is a family-owned fund. How does that actually allow you to put bet on something which other investors are not ready or interested, or they don't see the return on that fund? How do you look at first on the Indian market, and then where are you putting your bets actually?
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to fellow panelists here this afternoon for your insights and commentary. I would say that firstly, coming from, so I work for a family office, and indeed our focus is mainly investing into infrastructure within private markets. With any private market allocation, the fundamental context around that is that deep research and due diligence on any investment, will require, certainly greater focus than potentially those, that are looking at public markets where there's a lot of available information. Certainly when it comes to the infrastructure space, whether you're investing into energy, real estate, other capex heavy projects, this usually is looking at patient capital. So most of the investments that we look to are with a long-term time horizon, usually more than 10 years. And indeed, with every market that we have entered, and we're currently in 15 countries around the world, building relationships with local developers, with others within the ecosystem is a huge part of that, because of course, even only coming in as an equity investor, you are still a partner to whatever project is being developed. I think for India, what we have seen in recent years is that there is huge encouragement, from not only the government, but indeed the broader investment ecosystem here to actually attract foreign capital, FDI. And we have seen this through a range of initiatives, whether it's related to tax incentives or other initiatives to actually encourage foreign capital to come to this part of the world. Indeed, we represent a family from the Middle East, and their focus, again, has also been led by the fact that there are much closer ties of capital flows between the GCC and India, as we have seen in recent years. If you look at the Indian diaspora that are living, for example, within the United Arab Emirates, this has not only been a reflection of people to people exchange, but it has also been a reflection of investment exchange, with many Indian businesses setting up practices, other branches within that region. We've seen similar trends within Saudi Arabia and Qatar and other parts of the Middle East. And I think that this is a reflection of not only the interests for investors, but indeed changes that are happening across the world over time. And this often does reflect people-to-people exchange. So indeed, as a private market investor, building those relationships with people on the ground here in India and with the overseas diaspora, I would say, give private investors the opportunity to build insights and those links to look at investment opportunities.
Thank you. I think that's fascinating, to see how that shapes the Indian market in the long term, and the opportunities Indian market also offers to that. I will go back to, Cecilia, to you, and looking at your work essentially in the, you can say India puts a lot of bet on immersive ecosystem and 3Ds. And when we look at the businesses in the new emerging fields, essentially, how are you looking at that space, and what investments you are seeing or possibilities are there in that space?
I thought also, just to kind of tie back to my fellow panelists, Haru-san and Ameer, one thing also for you who might not know is that, of course, I came here 18 years ago to work with wines, but then, of course, I moved into investing into the world of simulation, seeing the opportunity that also Haru-san and MIXI are seeing, that India is really now at the cusp of anything that it comes to, creating to simulation, anything in that space. And it's really a movement that I've been following. And as I saw the wine industry 18 years ago really taking off, now I see it also happening in gaming, with 45% of India's population being under 25 years old, and with the these kids and youngsters growing up in a virtual world. So therefore I kind of moved into that space. But I also wanted to kind of highlight back to Ameer, one of the reasons also why I'm sitting, I guess, on stage as an investor, is that I want to attract more people to look at India. The likes of Ameer, who I happened to meet in Davos, and now you're here as a result, which I'm very excited about, and I'm looking forward to see more capital flowing into India. But I also wanted to highlight to the audience, as I'm not sure, as being the Chief India representative, I'm not necessarily the Chief India representative of the universe yet, but I'm the Chief India representative of Sweden-India Business Council, and I connect Sweden and India. So what I also do is to kind of learn from Sweden and implement that in India, and vice versa. So in that space, we also work a lot, of course, with gaming and entertainment. We also work a lot with governments. We work a lot with investors, with academia, with media. And what I did to connect the two countries, which I also think is relevant here, is that I started an ecosystem called Sweden India Tech Community. And that is something where I felt, let's not work in the verticals of only investors and only the startup or the government, so to say, but let's really work together. So that's how that came up, and that has startups, that has grown-ups, academia, media, investors, government, and so on. And I'm very happy to see here today that we have so many speakers coming in from around the world who are a part of this, including Mingla, one of my portfolio companies that are here on stage, and she's going to be speaking later. I also have Nexular, who is here, coming from Sweden, and I'm also excited to have Cloud 11 from Thailand, who is going to be here. So I think that's an important vertical to kind of touch on, the ecosystem. Gaming is important, entertainment is very, very important, but most important is
and
the
do you
ecosystem.
see the way the India EU had the recent agreements of the businesses and all? Do you think that also kind of creates new opportunities for the entrepreneurs here to be part of the European Indian story?
Absolutely, and that's also something that Ameer has also played a very important role in the FTA negotiations as a chairperson of the India EU Business Council. We've been working very, very closely on this now for almost 20 years. And in 2027, we're going to have an FTA between the European Union and India, and there's going to come a lot of opportunities with that. I'll be happy to share more on this note later.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm coming back to Tomoharu, to you, and we had a conversation about, you're looking at when Indians are creating or building companies, are they keeping India in mind when they start, or are they keeping in mind the global market? Given your interaction with the Indian startups and entrepreneurs, how are you seeing the conversations in India at the moment when people are building for the next decade? And how are you looking at those investments?
Yeah, it actually depends on the sectors. If your GTM is India market or if your GTM is global market, actually, it's both approach works, to be honest. But if I generalize that, we look into consumer sectors. We look, for example, we invested in Kind Life. It's a beauty space, cosmetics and such. They are big importers of K beauty and J beauty to India because India market, consumers are spending more for the more quality items, so that D2C and consumer brands are growing here. But on the other hand, for example, let's talk about the gaming sector instead of consumer brand sector. The gaming sector market is profitability is much better in the outside India. So actually, founders are required to start thinking about the global market first in most of the cases, almost all of the cases. So that actually, India is such a big startup and VC ecosystem. So some of our portfolios are building for the States, some of our portfolios are building for the India market. But if I generalize our portfolios, many of the consumer brands or consumer related businesses building for the India market. Why not? Because you're in India.
And what are the couple of things you're keeping in mind when you have a proposal, say a consumer market reaching out to you saying, okay, we need an investment here, and or a gaming market? Is there one or two things you really pay a lot of attention now, given how Indian economy is opening up and the possibilities here?
Well, I don't really ask the question like, well, I do ask the question, what's the GTM? But what I'm coming from is that, we invest in the seed stage. So seed stage, you have such a nice product or idea, but I also, I mean, nowadays, startup ecosystem has matured. So if you have a product, if you have a nice app, that's not good enough. I have to ask, what's the distribution? What's your growth plan? What's the GTM? Or I also assess if the founders would be able to figure this out. Nowadays, we are maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we are impressed. Let's say, hey, we are making this tech platform to make your accounting digital instead of manual. We are impressed by that. Like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there was enterprise stars and such. But nowadays, it's commodity. I mean, such kind of tech is already common. Then the question is that, let's say accounting, digitalization, or legal tech works, but we just want to understand what's different in your business, and not just product end, but also the GTM, distribution, partnership. What's your idea? How to grow this business? Supposing that you have such a nice product, how do you grow that? So that then, realistically speaking, that in the gaming sector, most of the case, growth plan works in the global market. So yeah, so it depends on the sector and your business thesis. If you have a realistic plan to grow your business in which market and how.
Right. Also the Indian story is also, consumer market is huge. There's a huge investment. Entertainment, there's a huge investment out there. But there are hardcore infrastructure questions as well. Climate change is a massive space for us, right? And we are looking at what kind of future we're building if we're not investing in the green energy. So Ameer, how do you look at that bigger picture actually, where there's a question of investments is getting limited and we don't see a lot of investment in that space? Are you looking at differently? Are you looking at the bets where others are not putting money and you see there's a possibility that we have more entrepreneurs in the climate change space, in the major infrastructure space?
I think one of the points to note is that in recent years, the cost of entry into developing more sustainable forms of energy distribution have come down quite dramatically. You know, we have seen, of course, you know, whether it's looking at solar technology, hydro, other forms of renewables, that the cost of capital required, you know, has come down due to innovation within the space over time. Globally, there is obviously, for most parts of the world, consensus that climate change is a problem. And indeed, as a result of that, one tailwind has been that governments are also co-financing many of these projects to actually invigorate, you know, and develop the existing energy infrastructure within most countries to actually support sustainable distribution. I would say that within India, we have actually seen quite positive commentary. I think that India is still industrializing, and of course, as a result of that, demand for energy will still continue to increase, particularly looking at the demand for, you know, data centers and other forms of energy-intensive usage over the coming years. There's an insatiable demand for energy output. However, the transition alongside that, and India has certainly been one of the global signatories to the UNFCCC's Conference of the Parties, for example. We have seen very senior representation from the Indian government at major climate convenings over recent years. And I think this certainly does act as a positive indicator to investors that actually, for the Indian economy, this is something that is taken quite seriously. And indeed, there is a lot of innovation happening here within the early stage new venture creation space. As we've seen, India has one of the largest concentration of engineers in the world, and indeed many of these individuals and young graduates are focusing their energy and attention on looking at sustainable solutions that indeed do require that coupling with capital and for private investors to be able to come in to offer scale, distribution, networks to actually develop these concepts into companies that can actually become sustainable business models. But I think that generally speaking, there is positive indicators from the market that this is something that India does take very seriously in the coming years.
Yeah, and you will see things changing in 5-10 years in terms of major investments in this space.
Yes, I mean, India is also a country that does actually also benefit from the natural, you know, kind of ecosystem here, whether it's looking at solar technology, for example. India has, within many parts of the country, the opportunity to really utilize many of its natural landscapes to utilize the solar potential. And indeed, hydro capacity is also something that indeed, as we've seen, you know, for India's coastline, is something that can continue to be developed in the coming years. Many of these projects, again, do require patient capital. If you're investing into a solar or hydro park, this is not something that is a financial instrument that is traded, you know, over, say, a short time horizon.
I also wanted to come back on that. You know, what about the Indian regulations, whether that's making life easier for investors to have a patient capital on a bigger project, so that things have improved. When you look at from outside, when it comes to regulations here, has that improved in terms of working in India? Because we heard a lot earlier, 10 years ago, it's very tough to work in India, but I can get sense from all three of you come from a, you know, foreign experience and all, that whether things are going better when it comes to regulation and making life easy for investors as well.
This again largely comes through the purview of policymakers. I mean, it was very positive in February of this year to see that the Indian government announced a free trade partnership with the EU. Indeed, these types of initiatives again offer an indicator to private investors that actually the regulation is developing to actually ease and mitigate existing barriers to entry and to encourage capital flows. I think we're also seeing, as mentioned previously, greater financial capital flows from the Middle East into India. And we're seeing this both from governments, but also not only from sovereign wealth funds and other forms of institutional capital that are reflective of public capital, but indeed from private investors. And indeed, these types of initiatives to encourage private investors to come here to India, to learn about the local ecosystem, to meet developers, to meet government officials, I think we'll support that.
Sorry,
I could add to that, because what I've seen in terms of investments over the years, and looking at Sweden, of course, we have a lot of Swedish businesses that are set up, and they've also invested into the country for now 150 years, so the likes of the Ericssons to the SKF to Saabs to the recent years, of course, Spotify and IKEA and H&M, the list goes on. But we also have EQT, which is one of the largest investment funds in the world. And they're investing now 40% of their capital in Asia, in India. And we're talking, billions and billions of money. And I can see some people in the room that they are in touch with as we speak. So there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of interest from around the world. The government has indeed made it easier over the last years. FTA, of course, with Europe is going to help a lot for people in Europe, but there's also FTAs with other countries. There's a lot of opportunities with Thailand, so looking forward to seeing more cooperations between India and Thailand. I'm also excited to see Japan, of course, investing into India more, and Harry Sun and his team. We've done some co-investments actually together in the space of immersive entertainment. But yes, I do see that. There's also Gift City that has come up, one of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initiatives, where there's a lot of benefits on not only investing into India, but also investing outside of India. And investing to of course the world, and that is so important that we collaborate, because if we want money to flow into India, we need to make it easy for money to go out of India to the rest of the world as well.
Excellent. I think if we can have a questions, we have a couple of minutes. If anyone has any question, we'll be glad to have one or two. I think we have a space for that. But yeah, please feel free. We have you got a question, sir. I feel like there will be someone in the audience who can help us with the mic, and then when we'll take your question, you can keep a mic. I also want to come one quick question essentially, and to maybe starting with you here. Is there an area where you think with a lot of focus and a lot of talk to invest in at the moment in India, but you feel that is misplaced and we need to be more careful by investing in those areas? Yeah, for you.
Sorry, your question is investing in which areas? I mean areas subject to regulation. Is that your question?
Yeah, no, I'm saying what are the lot of talk happening, India story, growth story, and all of that. But I think there's also a lot of reservation in terms of actually where we need to be more careful by investing from an investor point of view. What are the areas you will not invest in actually at the moment?
Actually, I'm such a practical person, and we have to be practical because we are early stage VC, and we have such a bandwidth, small team. Or for example, from the way one, we never invested in RMG. Why? I was not expecting. I don't read the future. I didn't know that RMG was getting banned. I didn't know that, but it's very practical because we all know that let's say RMG or fintech or such is subject to regulation. And as an investor, I don't want to invest in something I don't really fully understand, or I don't have a bandwidth to keep tracking them. And also coming from a corporate investor, not independent, investing in RMG requires a lot of legal bandwidth. So practically we didn't invest in it. So we are avoiding the sectors that are subject to regulation up until now. And then another thing is that India, you have to be careful about there are some shady accounting and such happening in the growth stage. Unfortunately, we all know that. So I have to be careful. My practical what I'm practically doing is that I want to invest in the founder that has integrity, I can trust, I can back. Instead, maybe I'd rather partner with the founder with strong integrity and very transparent. We can work together rather than short-term benefit.
Okay.
So that I need to be careful about
Okay, I think we will take a one or two questions and then yes, sir, please. Please introduce yourself and
Okay, I am Deepan Mehta, founder of Sugami. There is a lot of AI wave that we always keep hearing these days about. But you people have probably seen so many pitch decks. So a lot of them probably did not even went through the next stage and so on. When you hear from a founder, someone who is reasonably probably capable, when you find the obvious crazy idea, as in something which is definitely contrary to what everybody else is saying, and something which is probably doesn't make sense, right? But those are the ones which produces probably the maximum gain. So as an investor, when you see something which is completely different from a typical thing that you keep hearing, how would you actually go about evaluating such a thing? Because obviously you knew this was probably did not make sense to you right from the beginning, but then probably that's where the opportunity lies. So how would you, as you see this kind of a pitch, you would evaluate?
thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
I mean, I can just give an example.
And very quick, yeah.
Quick example. So I invested early in a company called Nothing. They make phones, they make headphones, and the founder came to me when it was just an idea. But he said, I'm so bored of what's happening in tech. And I don't need to mention, the competitors' brands, but he said, I really want to make something different. I want to make tech fun again. And he had already done a stint in India, and I knew that he's one of these people that would never take no for an answer. And he already built a company that was, in the same space. But that's where I saw, he had all the elements for me to back him. He had built something, in the space, hardware. He's a person that just doesn't take no for an answer. And you want to go into an industry and just like change it and make it fun again. That's where I feel I see the kind of ingredients that I would want to have in a funder. And this company is today the fastest growing smart phone company in India. We are the title sponsor of RCB. We got Nikhil Kama to invest $21 million in the last round, EQT, and the list goes on. But that's a story that I was part of from very early, and I betted on someone that would really challenge what people otherwise say is impossible and make it possible.
Ameer, coming to you, when do you say yes to a proposal?
When do I say yes?
Ameer, when do you say yes?
I think to echo some of Cecilia's commentary, that I think that you invest in people, and I think that's something that is incredibly influential. When you meet a founder, when you meet a team, of course there are many ideas and concepts in the world, and what I will also say is that there are not that many really new ideas. Most things have been iterated or tried previously in some form, and when you do your research you often find that. But when you actually find a compelling narrative and a story of why an individual or a group are committed to a particular concept, and you see the potential in that founding team, I think that often will take you across the line from actually going from a conversation to actually making an investment allocation.
Thanks a lot. One more quick question here. I think.
Hello. So the gentleman from Asia
just
has
introduce yourself and quick question. Yeah, quick question.
Myself, Ameer. I'm a director of my company. So we want a lot of money from you guys. So gentleman had mentioned about the shady practices, and he was mentioning about integrity. So what exactly are you looking from the upcoming startup founders? The particular quality you call integrity, and staying away from that shady practices.
Thank you. You want to take quickly?
Yeah.
Sure. We spend such a little amount of time with the founder, and actually we sometimes founders are overemphasizing something. Hey, I got this partnership closed, but if I look into it, actually the partnership is he just had one meeting with the potential partner. The partnership is not closed at all. So after the conversation and such, founders wanna beautify what's happening, so that if the founders is not transparent or not really stating what exactly the facts, That's a yellow. I mean that I would be a little bit careful.
I just want to add one note, and also because to answer your questions, like of course you bet on the founder, but what I see as a success with all the people that are backed that has been very successful is the people that have actually been building communities and been building ecosystems and been working with various ecosystems. So I think that is really a winning ingredient for anyone who wants to be successful. Is the ecosystem. So do not forget about that one, because that.
Thank you. I think one quick in one word, maybe to all three panelists here. If I ask you, what is the one bet you will put on India for next 10 years? Like Ameer, from you, like what is your bet on India? How you look at Indian market and Indian entrepreneurs?
I mean, a little bit closer to our investment mandate, but I think within the you're really looking at the picks and shovels of what are going to fuel the Indian economy in terms of energy. I mean, I think that within the energy space, India, with the world's largest population, and also looking at the industrialization of the country that's continuing, anything that supports that demand component of energy, I think we'll see very positive returns in the coming years.
Cecilia, to you in a one word or a one sentence, what is your bet on India for next 10 years?
My bet is that India is going to become more collaborative with other countries and continents.
More collaboration?
That cooperation is going to be the reason why India is going to come out even stronger than many other continents.
What's your bet?
Yeah, one word is founder. India has such a strong talent ecosystem. Top-notch founders in India are very incredible, really incredible. I'm always amazed by the talents here, so that I continue to invest the top-notch best founder in India.
Thank you so much. I think thanks Cecilia, thanks Tomoharu, thanks Ameer for this amazing conversation, and thanks everyone for joining this afternoon. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.